Yeah, today we will discuss about Matplotlib library. So you can open the document that I have shared in the group. And open in your Jupyter Lab. Today we will discuss about Matplotlib library. Okay, how many of you have worked with this one before? No one? No one did plotting before. So in Matplotlib, we are using this one for plotting. In addition to this, like plotting libraries, we have some other interactive libraries like what we call, forget the name. We have Bokeh and some other libraries that we can use to plotting. But typically, most of the time, we are using Matplot to do any sort of plotting. So in this one, we discuss like two main questions: how are line plots created using Matplotlib, and what methods exist in customize the look of these plots. And then the objective is like to create a basic line plot. We will discuss about on creating like basic line plot, and then label and grid lines and the plot, and then plot multiple series of data together, and then how to use these kind of functions inbuilt to Matplot, like in show contour and then fill contour. So when you are dealing with contours, we can deal with like if you need to plot bin vectors, we can use Matplotlib as well. But there are some other libraries advanced than Matplotlib for that sort of activity. So we can use those libraries for that. But in here, we will discuss about like basic 2D plotting. So plotting with Matplotlib. When we talk about plotting with Matplotlib, we can Matplotlib is a Python 2D plotting library which includes publication quality figures in various of hard copy formats and interactive environment across platforms. So for this one, you can like go to the Matplotlib directory. You can search for lib in your browser. You can type Matplotlib and search for this one in your browser, then you will see the documentation of theirs. Like they should have their own documentation in their web. So if you go over there, you will see why we use this one and some examples. So you can see from the search, it is showing like visualization in Python. So if you need to visualize something, this is the library that you have to look for. So you can go here and they have like their own tutorials and examples. If you need to go like in depth, because we cannot discuss in here, we have like lot of functionality. Today we will discuss only the basics. So there are some advanced functionalities. We cannot discuss all of them together in one session. So if you need to learn more, that's what I am showing. Like you guys, you need to go here and like explore about their tutorials and examples. By that, you can learn more. So without that, we can like go. So now you know, like at the very beginning, I discussed. Whenever you encounter a new library, you have to go and check whether they have their own support or not. If they have their own support or community support, then you can like use it for long term. So in here, the first step of in the notebook environment is you need to import Matplotlib inline. So this is like an option in when it comes to Jupyter Notebook. So if you need to print the output as in a cell, you need to do this one at the very top. So that means you are importing Matplotlib inline. That means it will print the output in a new line. So that's why we are importing this one. Once you like hit this one, it will import. Let me clear the output of say all cells, and then you can execute this one. Then it will set the variable to display whatever the thing that you are like plotting to show in a inline. Is giving an error?
And this file is different. File.
Go up. Try to import this one. Second line. Import it. No. Let's run this line. No. Just run this line. The entire line. Run this one. So in your library, did you activate your library? Yeah, it's a training. So you don't have Matplotlib installed in your library. So you need to install your library first in your environment. So if you get an error, that means you don't have installed like Matplotlib in your environment. All of you are getting this error? If you all of you are getting this error, what's the problem? That means Matplotlib is not in your environment. So you have to go into the Anaconda in this one, the prompt, and then you have to terminate the running of the Jupyter Notebook by hitting Control C. And then you have to install Matplotlib. What's the command? So you have to do this one. Then it will install Matplotlib in your current environment, and then you can use it. It's running now. Same story. Yeah. So in my case, I am getting an error because I have an issue with my VPN. That's why I am getting an error. But if you hit this command, it should install the Matplotlib library in your environment. So after you install, you can run Jupyter Lab again and then open the same prompt again, and then you can like try to run the command, so it should work. So if you run the first line, it should work. If it has like successfully installed, it should work. Then the next thing is we are going to import one library in Matplotlib. Like in Matplotlib, we can use this one for like mathematical calculations and other things as well. But if you are only focusing on plotting, the library is called Pyplot. So Pyplot is the library inside of Matplot, or the function inside of Matplot. If we need to call for like any kind of displaying functions, like displaying any plots or anything. So we will like load this one. We say matplotlib dot pyplot and then as plt. So whenever we need to call for pyplot in matplotlib library, we will call plt, and then we also import NumPy, because to create some test data, we will use NumPy. So we load these two libraries, and once you run this line, if it is not giving you an error, that means these two libraries are in your current environment and no issues. But if you get an error, that means you don't have one of these libraries in your directory. So hope that no one get any error. Now we will create some sample data set, because I say whenever, like, we know for typical plotting, if we need to plot a chart, how many data series that we need to have. This is like not Python or anything. In Excel, if we need to plot a chart, we need to have how many columns? If we are going to plot some sample data, we need to have two columns. One for x-axis, other one for y-axis. And the other thing, these both data should be in the same size. If the shape, if we discuss about the shape, number of rows should be equal. So that's the basic. So one of these column can be y and the other column can be x. So we need to have two set of data. So that's why we are creating these two arrays. One axis will be time, other axis will be some sample temperature data. Now you know how to load this data from the txt file. Yesterday we discussed how to load this data from the txt file. Right now we are not going to load the data from the txt file. Still we are going to create an array and like import the data from there. So what we are creating in here, we are creating simple arrays, because when we are discussing NumPy, I say if we need to create an NumPy array, we need to call for np.array and then pass the variables like the item values inside two box brackets as list. So now what will happen? It will create two arrays, one called time and other one called temperature. So you can imagine this one as like number of time and this one as temperature. So if you see the shape of these two arrays, it should be equal. There's one command, or else you can like click on this debugging icon and check for all the variables. When you are checking for all the variables, you will see we have temps array size with 24. That means the shape is 24. Even for times, we have 24 values. So both of these are in equal shape. So the next thing is, now we need to discuss when it comes to plot, what are the key features that we see in a plot. If you are going to make a plot, what are the things that we can see in the plot? You need to know these things. So it should have axes, y-axis and x-axis. If we are talking about axis, then for y-axis we need to have a label, and for x-axis also we need to have a label. At the very top of this graph, we need to have the title for the graph. Then when we come back to the axes, we have major tick marks. We will have like this kind of like major tick marks. Sometimes you will need to put major tick marks, and also sometimes you will need to put some minor tick marks. For both axes, we will put like major tick marks and minor tick marks. And the other thing, what we call this one, this line inside the graph. So grid lines. Sometimes you need to put grid lines. Sometimes you might not need to put any grid lines. And the other thing, we will have a legend over table of content. So sometimes table of content can be inside the graph or outside the graph. It's according to your preferences. And the other thing, we will have some lines. When we are plotting like line chart or anything, we will have lines. Then for the lines, we need to have some options. Either it can be a continuous line or it can be a dash line. And the other thing, we should be able to like change the colors for these lines as well, according to our need. So those are the basics when it comes to a graph. So now you know these things, we can like go ahead. So whenever we need to create a plot, I say we need to call for Matplotlib Pyplot library. So now in this case, we are going to create a simple graph. So here we are calling for figure 10 inch by 6 inch. So you need to keep in your mind this one. If you type like 10 by 6, that means it's going to create 10 by 6 graph. That means x-axis should be like 10 inches, y-axis should be 6. That means width will be 10, height will be 6. So then we can ask for axes to do subplotting in the figure, and after that we can call for plot function with times and the data along the x-axis, independent values, and the temperature along the y-axis. So this is the basics. when it comes to plotting. So here what we are saying, we call for like variable named figure, and we are saying from plot create a figure, because first thing we need to create a figure, like to create the space. This will be the space that we are going to create our chart. So in this space we can create multiple charts. So this is the like figure where you going to create. Actually this is the size of your paper. So if you need like 6 by 4 inch graph, you can create it using this, and then you can put multiple plots in here, like 4 plots or 3 plots. Any kind of plot you can put inside this figure. Now in the second function we are creating one subplot. So here we are saying x figure as subplot. This one will be number of columns, number of rows, and the index. So here if I type 2, what will happen? If I type 2 to 1, what will happen? So this is like indexing. So here the first element is representing the number of columns, not the columns, rows. So if I say 2, that means it will divide this space into 2 rows. So if I type 2, 1, that means I have 2 rows and 1 column. That means the graph will look like this. At the very end, it demarcates the index. So 2, 1, 1 means this one. If you need to access, like plot something in this one, you need to call for 2, 1, 1. So if you need to plot the second graph in here, you need to call for 2, 1, 2. So this last number is denoting the index of the plot. So now with that in your mind, how we can create like 4 plots in this graph? What should be the command? It should be 2 to 1, which will be the index number 1. This one will be 1 and this one will be 4. So that's how you can create subplots. So in this case, we are only creating 1. That's why we have 1, 1, 1. We type 1, 1 means 1 row, 1 column, and only 1. So it will create only 1 graph in here. And then we are calling for AX. Then this is the actual plotting function. So we are asking for, okay, use this plotting space. Subplot means the current plot that we need to plot. And then we are saying, okay, plot these 2 data. So first value will be x-axis. Second value will be y-axis. So if you view the docstring of this one, it will say it's going to print your graph. So if you run this one, what will happen? It will create this kind of graph, because we have some temporary data we already created, temperature and then times and the temperature. In this graph we are calling, okay, put times in the x-axis and temperature values in the y-axis. So now it creates this graph. So now we need to make some modification. Do we have a title in here? In our graph, in this graph, do we have a title? And did we label the x-axis? Did we label y-axis? So now we need to know how to label these axes. So in our case, so how to set x-axis label? Whenever you need to like set an x-axis label, here what we call for the subplot AX, we just call AX. Sometimes if you have like multiple subplots, you can go like, okay, AX 1 equal, then if you have multiple subplot, it will be like figure dot add subplot, and then within bracket you will say like 2, 1. So this will be your subplot 1, and this one will be AX 2. The same like this. At the end you will type 2, 1, 2. So whenever you need to do some modification into your first plot, you have to call for AX1. And whenever you need to do a modification for the second plot, you have to call for AX2. But in our case, we only have one subplot. That's why we are calling like, okay, access this AX. That means this plot or the subplot, and set the Y label. This one is an inbuilt command. Set X label is an inbuilt command. So it will set the axis label for X axis. So to set the axis label for Y axis, you have to call set Y label. Then it will set the Y axis label. And to show the figure again in the notebook, we have to call for figure, because that's the thing that we created, the figure that we need to display. So it will display the figure again. So if we run this one, now our x-axis and y-axis are labeled. Here you can see we have in x-axis we have times, in y-axis we have temperature. Now how to set the title? So same thing, we have to call for our subplot ax and then set title, whatever the title that you are going to give it for to your plot, and then let me run this one, and for this one you can like put multiple values. Here it is saying when you are saying setting ax set title, first thing is you need to give your label, and then comma you can give font type and the location where this title should appear in the left corner or middle or the rightmost corner, or even you can set a specific point by mentioning like the number of y and number of x points. So if you go through the docstring, we discuss about this one, how to say the docstring. We discuss three methods: shift tab, then question mark, then we have to go for the contextual help. So that's why I am like recalling this one. No matter what, you will understand the code, because here if you go inside, it is like discussing about the function in deep. Each and every single parameter, what it is doing. So here it is saying set a title for axis, or set 3 title axis or something. So in here what we are saying, we are giving axis a name and then we are setting the font size. So here if I increase the font size, what will happen, like 24 or something, what will happen? If I hit 24 and run this one again, what will happen? You can see the font size is increasing. So if I need to decrease the font size, I can play with this value. So it is in this font dictionary, in here it is saying only the size, but in this one, if you set for font family, you can change the font type as well. If you need to convert this font into Times New Roman, any other font that you like, you can use it in here. So now you know how to set the title and then x-axis label and the y-axis label and x-axis label. So now can we add some other lines in here as well? Instead of plotting one line, we should be able to create multiple lines. If it is a multiple line, that means we should be able to add a legend for a plot. If we need to add a legend, are we going to add a legend if it is like one single individual variable? We are not typically adding like a legend to a chart if it is like one single variable. But if we have like multiple line charts like this, we need to label, okay, this line represent what kind of thing, and then this line representing what kind of thing. To do something like that, we need to have some other data as well. For that thing, we create another data set. This one can be like temperature in 100 Pascal pressure level, like high altitude or low altitude. So now we are going to display two levels of temperature data in the same graph. So for this case, we will create a simple array with 24 elements. So if I hit this one, now it should create temp 1000 for as a variable. Now how we can load the same data also inside the same plot. So how we can do it? Same like this. So in this case, I am going to create another plot. So another figure. Now it will override the previous figure. So it's also creating the figure size as 10 by 6, same size, same plot, and then I am saying ax plot time, then temps. This is the one that we create earlier. In addition to this step, we call, okay, label is temperature surface, what it will do. So here is the function for plotting. This is the function for plotting. We discussed first it should be like x-axis, then it should be like y-axis. And now we are giving another parameter as label. What will happen now? So it is labeling this series of data as temperature surface. So now we are creating another plot like x. Same, we are calling for the same plot, like same subplot that we are calling for. So that means x. So we are going to plot another data series inside the same plot. Now we are calling for times and temps 1000. That means pressure, like the temperature at 10 millibar pressure level. We can call something like this. So now it will be the temperature at 1000 millibar pressure level. So now we should have like two lines. So now we are setting, whenever we need to set the axis, here we are setting label and title. So x-axis will be time, y-axis will be temperature, and then title will be temperature forecast, because we are discussing about temperature. And in here, if you need to show the grid lines for your specific subplot, you can call for that specific subplot, and then within bracket you can call the function dot grid. That means it is we are asking to turn on the grid. By default, grid is turned off. If we call like grid to be through, that means it will enable the grid lines for that plot. And then we are asking, okay, add the legend. So if you need to add the legend, we can call okay AX legend, and then in the brackets we are specifying look, that means the location of the legend. We are saying, okay, show the location of the legend in upper left corner. So now you should have like a rough idea what kind of figure we should like get at the end. So if you execute this one, we should have like 2 lines, and even our legend we say upper left corner. So upper left side the legend is appeared, and we asked to turn on the grid lines. Now you will see the grid lines for your plot, and you should have like 2 lines in here. We said temperature. Our first line will be like temperature, and the second line will be temperature 1000 millibar. So now you see like you can like do multiple plotting in the same graph. It is like in the same type like line chart. And then next one. Now the problem is, what if we need to like change the color or the style of these lines? We can represent one line in dash lines and the other one in in the same like a normal line. Or if we need to put it in other like sort of line kind, we can use like minus, plus, something like that. We can like plot. And the next thing, can we like change the colors? Because these are like default colors, no? We should be able to give our own colors. So how to do this kind of thing? So in here we are not restricted. Like if you see the discussion, it is saying we can use colors like red, blue, or HTML color codes. So what does HTML color codes mean? If you have like know about the color hex codes, like all the colors are represented by 6 digits value color hex, because we are talking about RGB, no? Red, green, blue. So for Y value we will have like 2 digits, green value we will have 2 digits, and black value we will have 2 digits. So in front we will have an hash mark. So whenever you need to get the color code, you can go to a web and like you can type red color hex code, and it will give you the color hex code for that specific color. So for the red, it is FF0000. So we talk like it should be like R for the first 2 digits, and then for the second 2 digits green, and the last 2 digits is like blue. So blue value is 0, green value is 0, red value is FF, mean the highest value. So that's the way that you can access the color HTML export. It's an additional thing. And then how we can set the colors. For this one, we have an option called color. When we are plotting like our series, same thing like we label, there's another option. We can say color. If we say color equal, then we specify the color. It will set the color for that specific plot that we are focusing on. If you focus on this code, you know this is to create the plot, and this is to access the subplot. In here, we are specifying the plot. In here, what we have done, we said okay, times temps x and y, and then we said color. Here we directly type color equal tab in red color, and then we said label temperature. So that's for the labeling the axis, because if you didn't set label, what will happen? Why we are setting the label for this series? If we didn't set the label for that series, what will happen? Just imagine, for in case I am not setting the label for this axis, I can delete this one. If I delete this one and run, what will happen at the in the legend? I will not have this axis label. So if I run, you can see in the legend I only have 1. That means I didn't label this axis. So in your code, if you made something like this where you need to make the correction, you have to go to the place where you are plotting the data, and then you have to set the label. That's why we need to have this label. And the next thing is to set the colors. We have another parameter that this floating function will accept is color, because in this case, let me go here and like check the plot function. So here it is saying plot function is for to display y versus x line or add markers. If you go to the docker string, it is showing. And what are the rest of the parameters it will accept? You can go here and like read. They have like in detail regarding this function, like description regarding this function. If you go inside, it is like showing all the steps. Even you can label. So when you are labeling, you have to set label equal your line name or any name that you are going to give. So when you are setting a specific what we call, instead of line, if you are using dash marks or anything, you have to give something like this. They are like short codes that you can use. So instead of like displaying a line, if you need to show the line as dash mark, you can use that short command. If you need to give star marks in your line, you can use another additional command. That's what I am saying, like you should need to go to the docker string and read it. Because I cannot like discuss about all the functionalities in these functions within like 2 hours. It will take another additional time. So you guys need to go through these docker strings. See here, it is a line style OLS. So when you are going to set the line style, you can use this kind of function. If you are going to set the fill style, if you are going to fill the line, you can do some sort of these steps. And then even for the markers, you can set the markers inside the line if you need to, because some graph you will see, you have the line and in the graph, you have some marks like this. So you can make your graph like that as well. So all of these things are mentioned in here. See, even if you need to use point marker, you can call for this character. It will use point marker. If you need to use commas or any other thing, all the things are in here. Even line style. If you need like single solid line, you can use this function. And if you need the dash line, you need to use 2 dashes. And if you need like dash with dot, you can use this style. And then for the formatting, if you need to have blue marker or red circles or anything inside your line, you can use this command. And then colors. For the colors, these are the things that you can use: blue, green, red, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, white. So if you are calling for the color names, these are the only color names that you can call for. If you call any other thing rather than that, then you have to call it like the color hex code, with the color hex code, not with the name. Because by default, this will only accept these colors. So that's why I'm saying you need to go to the docker string and view the docker string fully. And the other thing, you can go to their support website and read for that specific function. Even if I call like, okay, if I call for the function directly, you can go to the documentation of that function directly over there. Then you can like read more. Even they give some other things. See the accessors and then clear the current accessors, clear the current figure, then close the figure. So more options are there because we cannot discuss all of these functions. Even when it comes to like plot styles, we are only creating a simple x versus y plot. So in here, if you need to create an error bar plot, you know, like in some research papers, you will see some graph like this. You have this box and whisker plot. So how you can create this kind of graph? So if you are calling for this kind of graph, then you have to go with, I think box and whisker is separately over there. This one is like error bar. So in your line, if you need to display the error of a single point, it will appear something like this inside the line. This is the error margin of that specific point. So you can call for error bar. If you need to create for scatter plot, what should be the name? Like PLT, we import like Matplotlib as PLT, you know. So we need to call PLT dot scatter, and then we need to give x-axis and then y-axis. So these are all the options that you can use with plot. So one will be error bar and then plot in date, and then if you need to make a step plot or log plot, semi-log, there are like thousands of plots that you can go with. So if you click here, it will take you into that specific plot and give you more like depth details regarding that specific function. In this case, we are only discussing about simple line plot. So if you go see, even they give an example. So if you click on this example, they will provide you the entire code for this kind of thing. So if you are plotting something like a radar data or something, you can use this kind of plot. If you are dealing with radar data, so you can use this plot. And then even they have the example code, you can use the example code. So here it is saying subplot 211, that means creating two plots. So I discussed about this one. No? So here we have two plots. 211 means the first plot. 212 should be the second plot. Here we will see the example. See 211, and then here they are asking 212. So this will be the second plot. This will be the first plot. So now even you can read the code. No? That's why that's the main point. You should be able to read the code and understand little bit, not the 100%, but you should be able to like understand it. Where should I need to modify? That's the main thing, because codes are available in the internet. So now you can even copy this code and modify it according to your need. So we will go back to our code and then we will discuss. So here we discuss about like setting the colors only. So we will set the color. So whenever you need to set the color, where you going to plot X and Y, after that you need to set variable name color, then inside two quotation mark you have to set the color as red, and then in here I am setting the line style for the second graph. I discussed even if you need to set line style, if I set double dashes, what will happen? Instead of line, it will show the line in dash marks. So the second line, that means the temperature, isobaric level, that means this what we call this color, this orange color graph should appear in dash marks. So if I run this one, what will happen? The rest are same, setting the X label, setting the Y value, setting the title and turning on the grid, and setting the location for the legend in the upper left corner. So this one you can customize. If you need to set the, place the legend on the axis. If you view the docstring of this legend, you will see what are the other parameters it will accept. You can go down and it will show the rest of the parameters that it is accepting. See, center. If you click center, it will appear on the right center, like the center of your graph. If you set best, that means it will like go through your graph and choose the best position for your legend. And if you set some other thing, upper center, you can set it in the center of the top mid, like upper middle part. Upper left, you can set in the left side of the upper, and if you need to set this one upper right, you can call for upper right. Then lower right, lower left. These functions are also there. But in our case, we are setting this legend in upper left. So if I execute this one, now what should happen? The color should need to be converted. Both of the graphs, I set the color to be red. And in the second line, I set the line style. So if you call for line style equal, that means this is an inbuilt parameter that it will accept, and we are passing the value as 2 dashes. So now the style of the second line has been changed into dash marks. So now if you understand this one, we have a like simple example. So you can plot this one. So here we are going to create dev point, the 9 by 10s, and then we are also creating two dev points. One for the surface level, other one is for the isobaric level. Now you need to create two different subplots on the figure, and then add one subplot for temperature and one for dev point. And then set the title for each subplot as appropriate. You can give any title, and then set the X limit and Y limit. I will discuss, because we didn't discuss this one yet. So this is to limit your axis. So you don't need to show your entire axis. If you are focusing on a specific part of your X-axis and Y-axis, you can set the limit. So if you set that limit, what will happen? In the graph, it will show, not like from 0 to the actual value. Just imagine you need to focus on your graph. You have like values till 100. But in your graph, you need to show the values between 50 and 70. So what will happen if I set the limit? If I say 50 to 70, it will not show the entire graph. It will only focus on this x-axis. Even if I set the y value to like preferred value 20 to 50, what will happen? It will display y-axis between 20 to 50. So the new graph will be 20 to 50, and in here it will be 50 to 70 if I set the limit. So that's the main function of this ax dot set x limit and y limit. So we can discuss this one, but try to do these two because we discuss about these 2 points. Till these 3 we discuss. So you can create the plot. So you have the temperature dew point data is also created. Now you need to develop your code from here. Even the plot size is 10 by 6. Now you only need to develop the rest of the part. So how to display the first dew point? So I am asking plot temperature and dew point separately in 2 graphs. So you can try to do this one. So if we have the time, we will read the data file and like do a plotting as well. So till now we are not reading anything, we are just creating the subplot. So how we can create 2 subplots, I discussed. Because in this case, I am asking something like it is up to you. I am asking just create a plot or a figure. That means this one will be 10 inch by 6 inch because I have said this one as 10 by 6. So this will be the figure area. Now I am asking to create subplot for temperature and one for dew point. Now it's up to you. You can either divide this one into 2 sections like this, or even you can divide this one up to something like this. So if you are dividing this space by something like this, what should be the command? I say ax add subplot because we at the very top I discussed what should we need to do at the very top when we are setting this one I discussed. So in here I say this is the place where you are setting the axis. So now you need to have 2 axes. Where should I need to modify? I should need to call like ax1 because now I need to have like 2 ax. One for temperature, other one is for dew point. So ax1 should be then figure. I need to divide this one into 2 equal space dot add subplot, and then here how I need to change. If I say 1, then 2, 1, what will happen? I say the first one is rows, second one is columns, and this one is the index of your graph. So this will be the first graph. So how, in which style, like here I have 2 columns. That means the graph will look like this. One plot will be this and the other plot will be this. So if I say something like this, 2, 1, 1, what will happen? Now I will have like 2 columns and 2 rows and 1 column. So graph will look like this. So this is the way you can set 2 subplots. So ax2 will be same command here 1, 2, 2. So now you need to plot the data and set x and y title. Because setting the title, the command is over there in the top. Yeah. So I am asking to plot you some like graph something like this. In this case, it is like two columns, but in your case, it can be like two rows. So okay. If you have created this one, you can take a screenshot and put it in the WeChat group so we can see who have done this one and who haven't done this. If you have finished like creating this plot, take a screenshot of that graph and put it in the group. So should we discuss or you need more time? So it is something like that. If you need to set the limit, this is the command. AX set limit and then your starting point of the y-axis and ending point of y-axis. And if you need to set the x limit, same. Ending point of starting point of x-axis and ending point of x-axis. If I set this one, you can see in the following graph I set the y limit as 257 to 313. So here it shrink the axis. So it should be starting from 257. You cannot see, but 260 is there. That means 257 should be here. And then I said the x limit to start from 95. So you can see 95 to 162. Okay, we can discuss the code, no? So, so how to create two subplots? So first step is to create two subplots. So now for the first step, I will display the temperature. So what should be the command? Figure add subplot 1, 2, 1. So here I am dividing the subplot into two equal columns and I am accessing first subplot. This will be the first subplot. Now I am going to plot in this one, it will be Ax. So I am plotting times time and temp. I am going to display both temperature and temperature at 1000 millibars. So first one will be in red color. Color will be red, and then the like the label of the axis will be temperature at surface, and then temperature at 1000 millibar level is in red. Line style will be this time not dash. This time it will be two dots, and then the name of this one will be axis will be temperature at isobaric level, and I am setting the x-axis label as time, y-axis label as temperature, and then title as temperature forecast for that specific chart, and then showing grid as true, legend in upper left corner. So now I am creating a graph for this one. I create the graph and set the this axis as times and this axis as temperature, and then I should have two graphs in here. The label is in here and the legend is in here. So now the first graph is finished. Now I am moving into the second graph. So here I am saying AX2 equal figure as subplot 1, 2, 2. Now this one will be the second column. So if I am saying like 1, 2, 2, that means this should be the second index and this will be the second plot. Now I am going for to plot in that graph. So whenever I need to call for that subplot, it will be AX2. So now I am saying, okay, instead of that, I am setting something in here. What does this one mean? Share EX and share EY. So what does these two functions mean? So you can go to the Docker string and see. So share X or Y axis with shared EX or shared EY. That means I can share the X and Y axis whenever whatever like the formattings I am going to do for the X axis in here and Y axis in here, it will automatically applied into these two axes. So if I am going to limit these two axes, it will automatically limit these two axes as well. But labels will not be changed. You have to keep in your mind these labels will not be changed. Axis label will not be changed. I am only sharing these two axes only. So if I make major grid lines format into the major grid lines, this will affect for this x-axis. And if I do major changes to y-axis, it will affect for the first x and y axis. That's what I am saying. I am sharing these axes with ax mean my first subplot. So I am sharing ex mean x axis, ey mean y axis. I am sharing those two axes with the previous subplot. So whenever I do a modification like setting the limits, it will affect for the previous subplot as well. If I didn't do this one, what will happen? After we run the command, we can see. So then I am plotting, same thing, time dev points, and I am setting the color as green, and then labeling this one as dev point temperature, and also I am setting the color as green. Line style this time 2 dot marks, and then marker as this one, and then label this axis as dev point, and then setting the x-axis, y-axis, title, and turning on the grid, and setting the location of the legend. So in addition to those two, I am now setting the y limit and x limit. So if you check on the graph, now you can see here I set the y limit for 257 and 310, 312. Now if you check on both of these two graphs, here the axis, this y axis and this y axis. Now you can see both of these axes are in same order. So it is starting from 260 and uniform to 310. But you can see this is the ending point, but that thing is not labeled. So it is going from, I did a mistake in here, 312 to 257. Even the y-axis, if you see on the x-axis, it's also same. This is starting from 95 and ending at 162. So now what will happen if I remove this one? What should happen if I remove this part? If I say, okay, don't share, what will happen? So now it is plotting the data, but you see axis is different. So this one, it is starting from 90 and 285. This one is starting from 260 and this one is starting from the limit that I have set. So here I set the limit now. It is going with the limits that I have set because I set the limit for AX2, not for AX1. Otherwise, what you can do, you can like set the limit for that axis separately as well. You can type AX, then set Y limit, set Y limit and X limit separately. Instead of typing that thing, you can directly type it over here as share EX, AX and share EX, AX. So both of the axes will be in the same dimension. So now both of the axes are in same dimension. So how to create if I need to convert it on the other side? If I need in 2 rows, I need to modify in here. 2, 1, 1 and 2, 1, 2. So if I do this one, it will be in the other way. So first graph will be there, second graph will be here. So it's up to you. When you need to do any modification like this is the way that you can format your graph. Subplots. And then next one we will discuss about something related to scatter plots. So even the scatter plot, I discussed this one when I am showing you guys this Matplotlib Pyplot library, how to browse through it. So same thing, you need to first create the figure where you are going to display your graph, and then you need to create the subplot, and then you need to call for that subplot and give your data. Now I am saying AX plot temperature temp hundreds and marker 0 and marker size is 5. Last time I didn't put these two options and I am saying line style none. Now what will happen if I said line style to none? What will happen? Now last time I am showing like how to like what's the basics of like plotting something. If you are plotting it manually, how we are plotting this one in manually. Like in the old days, if we need to create a graph, we don't have Excel or anything. What we are doing? We are checking X value and Y value. If the first value is 1, second value is 2, how to plot this one in the graph? So this is the X and this is the Y. We will check the X value. So X value is 1, so 1 is in here. So we will go along this axis and check for 2. So the first point in here. And then the second point we will check for the X and then check for the Y. Now if it is a line plot, what will happen? It will like draw like a line between these two, with these all the points which have been plot. Now we are setting, we don't need the line. What will happen? Line will be removed from the plot. Instead of line, we are saying now we don't need line. Where these points are, just give us a marker. Now the marker type is O, so it should give a point something like this, hollow point for each point in the graph. And then I am saying the size of the marker is to be 5. If I need to make it bigger, I can change the value in here. If I need to make it smaller, I can change it in here. Same way, we can set the x-axis label, y-axis label, title, grid. Rest of the things are same. So what will happen if I plot this one now? So see, now instead of line, I have points. So if I need to make this one like 10, what will happen? The marker size will be bigger. So here is the place you need to play with when you are like decreasing or increasing your marker sizes. and then rest of the things are saved, because in here I set the line style as false. So no line will be there. Instead of line, we will have points. This one. So the previous code we use this one. No? For the previous code we use this. Let me like put the code in here nearby. So this one. So you have to put this one in the next subplot. If you need to link those axes with 4 subplots, you have to do the same thing for all the other subplots. If you have like 4 or 5 plots together and you need to set the x and y limit and like grid lines like it to be equal, then you have to share this one for all the other subplots as well. Otherwise, you can like simply copy these 2 commands, 2 lines, and set this one manually in here as well. You can say, okay, ax1, ax. So now what will happen? For the ax, the limit will, you have set the limit separately. So it is not dynamically adjusting, it is like manually adjusting. So you have to set every time. If you make a correction in here, you have to make the correction in the other plot as well. But if you do something like this, you don't need to do it in all the other places. If you create, like make the change in one place, it will automatically affect for the other place as well. Why? No, the one comma is also missing. Yeah, you can put the figure in the group. If you plot the figure correctly, you can put the figure in the group. Yeah. So now we are discussing about the what we call scatter plots. So how to set the scatter plot is like simply you need to turn off the light, turn off the lines in your grid and turn on the points. That means turn on the markers. You can set a marker instead of line and it will automatically convert it into a scatter plot. So now there's an issue. Even you can use this scatter. You can directly call for scatter, because when I discuss about Pyplot, in here if you go into the Pyplot, you have multiple graphs. Over there they have a dedicated like inbuilt function for scatter plot. If you go for here, you should be see plot types. Here you see the scatter plot. So there's a dedicated function named scatter plot as well. If you call for that function, it will by default it will create a scatter plot. You only need to give x and y. Automatically it will be converted into a scatter plot. Here you can go for that example as well. If you go over here, it is saying x-axis, y-axis, and then you have some other parameters. All the parameters that you can give values for S, C, marker, CMAP, norm, Bmin, Bmax, alpha, line width, edge colors. All of the things are there. So how you can set these additional things? You can read this description over there. So you say like saying if you are setting the C, what it will do. If you are setting the marker, what will you do? So if you need to check for all the marker style, you can click in here. If you click here, it will show you all the marker styles that you can use inside Matplotlib. So that's why I am showing you these things. Like I cannot say, okay, this is for that, this is for that. You need to go for these websites and learn this one like more how to do the formatting. So there's a dedicated function called scatter. So if we call for this one, last time we called ax.plot. Now this time we are calling ax.scatter. What will happen? So we don't need to turn off line. If we call for ax plot, it will plot in line plots. Now if we call for AX scatter, it will create a scatter plot automatically, because in here we use the plot function and we did a small trick. We turn off the line and to display them as markers. Now in here we are directly calling for the scatter plot and calling for temperature and temperature 1000. So now what will happen? Now it is not times versus temperature. Now it is temperature at surface level versus temperature at isobaric level. So now we are doing the scatter plot for these two axes. So now if we plot this one, what will be the x-axis? Temperature at surface level, and y-axis level will be temperature at 1000 hectopascal level, and then the title will be temperature cross plot, because here we are cross checking temperature, both of the temperatures against surface level and isobaric level. So and then we are saying set the grid to be true. Now if you see, you can see the same plot. So same plot you can create in both ways. If it is a scatter plot, you can use the plot command, but if you use the plot command, you have to modify in here. Instead of line, you have to turn off the line and give the markers and marker sizes manually. But if you use scatter directly, AX dot scatter plot instead of plot, you can directly give you X values and Y values, and it will convert it into a scatter plot. So now I say in the scatter plot I show you last time. If you go for the description of the scatter plot, here you can give multiple variables. No, in the scatter plot, what are the arguments it is accepting? If you call for scatter, what are the arguments it is accepting? If you go inside, so scatter plot is accepting x and y. In our code, we only call for x and y. Now I am asking you to call for this C. What does C is doing? If we specify C equals something, what will happen? You can go into the description and see. C is array like the list or color optional. That means what will happen? We can set the color for the points. So here we have the examples how we can put the colors for our code. So how we can put the color? So now I am asking you, just use the above code that we discussed and add the C keyword to argument to the scatter plot and call for the color in the point by the difference between the surface 1000 HPA and temperature. Surface and 1000 HPA. That means you need to do the same thing, but you need to assign C and change the color. How we can do it? I am just asking you to here to put C equal, then you have to put your value. How we can put the value? We have to set the value in the string. So how we can set the value in the string? And then I am asking at one by one line into the plot, because you know some plot when you are putting the scatter plot, you are putting this line. That means if most of the data in this side, that means temperature at isobaric level is higher than the temperature at surface level. If most of the data in this side, that means temperature at surface level is much higher than the temperature at isobaric level. So for this one, we need to put one by line in our graph. So we need to display this one as well. And then I am asking what? Change the color map to something appropriate in this plot and then add the color bar and plot to have a look of Matplotlib document for help. So you can go for the Matplotlib document and check for the help. So how we can do this one? So something like this. Now it is like look familiar to research paper graphs that you will see. So how we can do something like this? So you know how to display these both values. Now we need to focus on the colors, change the colors accordingly, and then to display this live, one by one live. So how we can do? So till here you know. In here we create the figure and then we create the subplot. And then in here what we are doing? Ax.plot, we are saying color black, line style, dash dash. What will happen? So we are creating this line. So if you focus on the plot, we are saying to 320. That means this is the X point. So this is just a one single X point, and this is the Y point. So it will create the line accordingly to these two coordinates. So first X value is 255. For Y, the value will 285. So it will create a point in here, and then for the X, it will start from 320. So it will check in here, and then for Y, the value is also 320. So it will make two plots, and I am saying color of this line should be black and line style should be dash dash. Okay, now we created that line. Now inside the same plot, we need to add another plot. So for that thing, we will create it as a separate variable S, and we are setting AX scatter plot. This is same, no? We create temperature against temperature 1000, and we are setting C. This will be the function temps minus temp at 1000. What will happen? It will do the calculation. It will do a calculation. What will happen? It will subtract temperature values from temperature 1000 and create a color bar. So now I need to assign a color map. So whenever I need to assign a color map for this one, this range, I can use the command called cmap, because in Pyplot, if you go here, it is saying there's a variable named cmap. For cmap, what are the functions that you can use? If you go here, yeah, BWR, there's a inbuilt color map. So if you go into the color map section, they will give you some color maps there which you can use in here. So in Matplotlib, we have like inbuilt color maps. So in this case, we are using black and white and red. So blue, white, red. So that's why we mean like BWR. It is a default command. You cannot change this one, because this is an inbuilt one, color ramp. If you check for the color ramps, you can search. You can search in the internet, and then if you go, they should like display you the color maps that you can see. See? So this is one. You can use this command like VIRDIS if you need your color ramp to be like this. If you need your color ramp to be in grayscale, you can use grays. The same spellings, you cannot change this one. You have to use the same command. You can copy this one and paste it over there. And sequential. They have some like other color commands that you can use. In our case, we use BWR. So here you can see we have BWR. If you need to change color map into any other thing, you can choose one from here. According to your preferences, you can change to choose any of this, because over there you cannot make any mistake in this, like when you are giving the color map the name. You have to use the exact name that Matplotlib is providing, because it is an inbuilt color map. Otherwise, what you have to do is you can create your own color map. There's another option, you can create your own color map and call for that thing. It is a little bit advanced thing, but the best option is to use something like this, like inbuilt color map. So whenever you need to go for the color maps, you can go into the color section and it is saying in the color maps. So I will put this one in the group, so you can choose any sort of color for this thing if you need. And then we will go back into the command, and then we are saying we min to -5, we max to 5. What will happen? In our color ramp, we are setting it to be from -5 to +5. So if you go into the scatter plot at the very top, it is showing you the old arguments. No? In here, if you say we have some other two arguments as vmin and vmax. So what does vmin and vmax mean? In your color ramp, where should the color ramp should start and where should it be in? So the color in this color ramp, I am saying show the values from -5 in this color and +5 in the darkest red color. And now what I am doing is I am calling for this color bar to be appear in the figure. So if I say figure color bar is, what will happen? That color bar will be automatically applied for the figure. That means the figure which I have created at the very top. So then I am setting the X label, Y label, and setting the title, and then setting the grid to be true. So how we can do the same thing for the values that we created, dev point value? Where we need to change this? Yeah, for the dev point, if you are changing, we need to change it in here. Yeah, according to this one, we will need to change the line where the starting point is, ending point is, because from this scatter plot, we know our values are scattered around 285 because it is the starting point, because we didn't set any limits, and the ending point is around 320. That's why we said that values in here. So otherwise, you will confuse how these values came from. So we plot our scatter plot like a default scatter plot, and then from there we check our range. So starting point is 285. So if we check for the y limit as well, it is in 285. And for 320, you can see y values are also passing around to 320. So that's why we set our one by one line to be in this range. So what will happen if I delete these two? It will show us the color ramp, but it will show us the entire range. So it will show us the entire range of the values. If we specify, it will show the specific value range. Otherwise, it will go for the entire range. If we type -5, what will happen? So the color ramp will start from showing the -5. All of these values that mean like 7.5, -10, -12.5 will be shown in the blue color. So I think that is it for today, because we have another script. So if you need to load the data, we can go with this one. So we can read the data, because you know about pandas and matplotlib, Pyplot, and then you know about NumPy. Then we can read a txt like our CSV file, and view the read like headers. We check on this one as well. Let me share you this script as well, so we can discuss about this one a little bit. So let me share this script as well with you. This one, because in these codes we use our, like we created same like temporary data and use those temporary data to do the plotting. Now how we can read CSV file or text file and like do the plotting. Now you know NumPy and pandas, so we can use those two. Like last time we used pandas to read the file. So what is the command that we use? Read CSV. So let me share you this one as well, so we can discuss as far as we can go. Then we can finish, and next day we can discuss about X-array. That's what I say. We cannot discuss this one like for that much. If I discuss about all the plotting functions that we have, scatter plot, then like error plots, error bars, it will take like huge amount of time. So this one. Let me share this one. So if we have time, we can go. I will share you a zip file. Download this zip file and unzip it and open the txt like that Jupyter notebook file. So you can open that notebook file. Over there we have this data file and the script file. So we have a CSV file in our directory called TURAX 2019. It's an Excel file. If you open it in Excel, you will see something like this. So you see year, month, day, hours, then air temperature, degrees, dew points in degrees, sea level pressure, and then wind direction in degrees and wind speed in meter per second and sky condition, and then precipitation, liquidated precipitation in millimeter. So you will see this one. It is like a small data sheet of a specific weather station. They recorded these values for hourly. So here you have hourly data, temperature data, and then dew point, sea level pressure, and this data. So how we can play with this one? So the first thing, how we need to load this file. So yesterday we discussed about read CSV. I think we discussed in pandas. Which command we discuss when we are discussing pandas? We discuss about which command? We read a txt file, no? What's the command we use? We use the read CSV function. So you are familiar with read CSV. At that time we were reading a txt file. But in this case, what we are going to read is a CSV file. On that day, I say you can directly open Excel file as well. So this is the way. First, we are importing our required module. We will endorse pandas, plot for plotting, NumPy for like reading the arrays, and calendar to convert our time into a specific time. Because in our Excel sheet, how our data is like stored. We have year separately, month separately, day separately, hour separately. So we need to convert it into a date. So it will understand. That's why we are importing the calendar. It's also inbuilt Python command. So how to read the data? We are calling for data frame and pd panda read CSV directly our file. So what will happen? It will first I need to call. I send this one in the group, the zip file. So if you run this one, it will read the data file. So if I hit df head, last time I discussed only about df head. Here I didn't mention. What will happen if I mention a value inside this bracket? No, if I mention 10, it should display me the first 10 records. So now I should be able to see the first 10 records. Now you see the index and the column names, and they are represented values. And now the next thing is we need to separate the year, month, day, hour column into a single date and time, because in here we have year, month, date, hour separately. Now we need to combine these all together to form a date and time series. So how we can do this one? First, we need to say date separator for the location. So where we have df log mean, what we discuss about this one? Df log mean, whenever you need to select multiple rows or columns. So here we are selecting all the rows which containing year till hours. That means get all these values in the rows and stored in a separate variable named date sep locator. So now what will happen? It will create date sep locator. If we view for the date sep locator, what should we see? It should store all the date values in this data frame. So now in that data frame, what we are doing? iloc, df iloc. Now we are combining these all the values together to form year, month, day, and hour. Now you can see it is created this one. Now we are calling for td to date type, because there's an inbuilt function name to date type. So what it will happen? It will convert your date and time. If you separate the date and time something like this, it will convert these values automatically into a date and time. So now what we have done in this code, we extract the date and time values in our sheet separately, and we are passing it to date and time formatter. Now we should format according to the date time, and here what we are doing, we are renaming the column name. I say if you need to rename a column name, you can use this function and assigning the date and time into that specific column. So now what should we see? We need to have year, month, date, something like this, and we need to have a new column name date type. We have a new column name date type. So now simple line plot. How we can do a simple line plot? First thing is we need to choose the variable for our plot. So in this case, we will set variable name is equal air temperature in degrees, because in our column we have a column name air temperature in degrees C. So we are calling for that one, we are setting it as a variable, and now in here we are saying df drop na. We said why we use drop na. Yesterday we discussed. So drop the null values. I am saying index subset bar. So if you see any air temperature value, if it is 0, just remove that thing. Drop all the values and display the variable. Now you can see the rows has been reduced. If you check the original value and new value, you can see the rows has been, number of rows has been reduced, because we drop all the NA values in temperature, air temperature degrees. Because if we plot something like this, what will happen in our graph? If we plot a line chart, all of a sudden you will see there's a temperature variation like this, and at the end you have something like going towards 0. We need to remove these points. So that's why we remove those specific points. And now what we said, we are setting by data, df variable var. What we are doing in here? df var1 mean our new filtered data set or data frame. From there, how I can see all the key values in here? Yesterday I discussed one short command. If I need to see all the values in here, what is the command? If I need to check for all the head names, the head value names, the index names. When we are discussing about pandas, we discuss this one at the end. So here I said if you type df columns, it should give me all the column names. So how I can see all the column names over there? I can type the same command. If I type df1 columns, it should give me all the column names. Now I am accessing a column inside a variable because we created the var1. What is the like value of var? In here we set var is air temperature degrees. So now we are selecting air temperature degrees in values as y-axis and saving it in a separate variable. And now we are accessing date and time column and storing it in x-axis. And now we are asking to plot x data and y data. So now what should we get? We should be able to see the temperature values for the entire year. This is for 2019. We will say the variation of the temperature for the entire year. We know typically in the summer we have the highest temperature and towards the end we have the lowest temperature. So now we need to do some modification. We don't have title, we don't have x-axis, we don't have y-axis. So how to plot those things? So we can set the x label data, then y label temperature, title as Hawaii temperature in 2019. So if we display this one, you will see a graph like this. And now we can do some additional things. So if we need to set the font sizes. So now I didn't discuss about this one, tick marks. So this one is x ticks. So what will happen? It will show the x tick marks and set the the font size to 12. It will set the y tick marks and set the font size to 12. And then those are the two additional modifications that I am going to do for the graph. You will see now the tick marks and the fonts has been reduced to 12. So now you can see it clearly. This time it was like bold and this time it was like plain, and you can see the the size of the text is being reduced. Same way like this, how you can save the figure. Last time we didn't mention, because in this one, in Jupyter Lab, whenever you need to copy a figure, you can simply right click and copy output to clipboard, and you can open your Word document and paste the figure over there. So you don't need to separate save it separately. But if you really need to save it in your current location, you can do it as well. You can right click here, copy the output and open your Word document. And then if you open the Word document, you can go here and right click and paste your figure. So if you right click and paste the figure will be appeared in your document. So you don't need to save separately and go over there. You can directly copy the figure and import into your Word document. But if you really need to save this one, there's a command. You have to call for that plot, and then you have to type save fig and then give your figure a name with the extension. Now what will happen? It should save this plot in the current directory. That means here with the name of mylineplot.png. So it should save it as a png file in my current directory. So if I execute this one, in here I should see one png file. What? Yeah, this one we are saving as PNG. So if you need it in the SVG format, you can here specify your format. If it is PNG, you should need to type PNG. If it is JPG, you need to type JPG. If it is SVG, you have to type .svg. So it will export that image into the current directory. So I should be inside the Matplotlib. So if I go here, you see that plot is over there, mylineplot.png. It created 40 seconds ago. So now I can see the plot as well. So if you go multi-line plot, we discussed this one. We draw we create two multi-lines. Now in here also we are doing the same thing. We are asking for df var2. Now we are creating air temperatures and dew points, and we are going to display it in the same graph. So here we are calling for variable name separately, and then we are dropping the index and creating the subset all allow. This is like combination of all the command at once. What will happen in here? df.dropNA, axis, index and subset variable. Where air temperature in degrees, if you see none value, drop all the values. and save that into a different data frame as df var1. And then for the variable name 2, dev point degrees, just do the same thing, drop all the none values and save it into df variable 2. So if we execute these two commands, we should have two different data series. So now I am saying x data df var2. What will happen? Df var2 from this data set, select date and time and set it as x-axis. For y data, first y data, export var1. var1 means air temperature in degrees. Get all the values of air temperature in degrees, and then df var2 means get all the dew point in degrees values and is stored in y data 2. So the variable name is y data 2. Now I am going for the plotting. Now what will happen? I have x-axis and then 2 y data. So I can go with two plots in the same figure. So here I am specifying the figure size to be in 10 inches and 8 inches. Then I am using the plotting. So plot function, this is the first plot function. Then x data, y data 1, color in red color, temperature in degrees. So you know this is the label and this is the line color. And then the second plot, x data, y data, and then we are setting the color for blue, and then label dew point in degrees Celsius, and then x label is date, font size is 40, and then y label is temperature in degrees, font size is 40. And then we are setting the tick marks, font size to be 12, and the title, we are setting the title and title font size to be in 80. And then we are saying legend, font size in 12. So here we didn't specify the location. But if we need, we can assign the location to be the title location. What should be the command if we need to assign the location of the title of the legend? If you go into the Matplotlib, we discuss this one. If you need to set the location for your title, upper left or something, we need to call for loc equal then your location. So if I need to assign something like this, I can copy this one and go into the legend of that function, and after putting a comma, I can specify this as well. So this is how you can give the additional things. Like if you need to customize, you can read the docstring of that function, go over there and check for all the parameters it is accepting, and you can modify according to that. Now if I run this one, what will happen? It is creating me a plot like this. So you can see dew points in blue color and temperature in red color. Even all the other things are formatted according to the things I mentioned in here. So this is for an scatter plot. If I need to do a scatter plot, you know the same thing we discussed. In here I am going with the liquid precipitation. That means liquidated precipitation means the temp like rainfall. So I am accessing the rainfall data because we have this variable in our data frame. And same thing, if the precipitation values are 0, just drop these values and create a subset. And for the x data, get the time series values, and for the y data, get the liquidated precipitation in millimeter values, and then call for the plot. We create the plot 10 by 8 inch, and then we are calling for scatter plot. And here we mention s equal 10. What will be happen? So the size of these dots should be in 10, and the color should be in blue, and the label should be precipitation in millimeter. So if we turn on the legend, it will show us the label as precipitation. Then we are formatting the axis and setting the font size, and then we are calling for this one, and we are setting the legend. Since here I didn't mention the location for the legend, by default it will go for the upper right corner, and then it will show me the graph like this. So now we have some issues. In here we have some data scattered all around here. How we can filter out those data? We discuss about this function y data df var log, then df var variable. If it is greater than 0, then get all the values of the rows. So we discuss whenever you need to in a data frame, if you need to access rows, the command will be loc. We discuss about this, no? We discuss about this data frame.loc function. I think we discussed. In pandas, we discuss about this function. When we are discussing the pandas, we discuss about Look. So here we discuss what is happening. We are accessing a column. So we are accessing that column and then formatting it according to this one. What will happen? df var. In our var, what is the VAR? Liquidated precipitation in millimeter. So in short form, it is going to be something like this. Filter the variable like this, and then if the precipitation values are greater than 0.0 something, then get all the values for y, then omit all the other values. So if you plot this one at the end, now you can see it has filtered into 677 rows. Now if we plot this one, same plot with the new data, now you will get an error. So you should be get an error. What does the error means? So if you read the error, it is saying what? So you are getting an error because the dimension is not in the same dimension, I think. The dimension is not equal. So you are getting x and y should be in the same size, because at the very first I say, whenever you need to go with the plotting, no matter what, if you are creating a graph, both x and y axis should have the same number of rows. But now in our case, what happened? In this case, we deleted all the values where the temperature is greater than 0, and we assign this one as y data. So if I print y data in here, I have 677 rows. But in the plotting, in the plot, for what I call for x data and y data. Right now y data is okay, y data is accessing from here, but for the x data it is still accessing from the previous command. So in the previous command I didn't filter the data, so I have the entire time duration. But for the y data I filtered the data, now it has been shrinked. So I need to go with the same length when I am going for the plotting. If you didn't do something like that, then you will end up a command like this, because at the very end you don't need to focus on all of these things. You just need to go to the end and check for here. Over here it is saying x and y must be in the same size. Now the size is different, that's why you get this value error. To check this one, we can say df var where df var values and none get these time values. And now if we say, okay, print the length of y data and x data, now you can see the y data is around 8,640. But in our filtered data, x values is 677. So that's why we get that error. So now we need to use the same value for y data and x data. If we use the same value, what will happen? It will plot the graph for us. Now we are using the same type data, and it should give us the plot. So where should I have ID for this one? So now it's giving me an error because I closed this script and try to run it again. So I have to import this one and import the data. So I will run the entire script again. At the end, I will get the so now I get the plot where the values is 0, it's all removed, and now I have the filtered scatter plot, because if you see these two scatter plots, now you can see here we have 0 values and negative values. All the negative values have been removed, and now I ended up with all the positive values without any error. Now here you have some exercises. You can try to do these exercises and put this one in our group. You need to do this exercise and like put the answers in the group. You can do it by yourself. Tomorrow we will discuss about these exercises. So we discussed plot at least 2 variables in the same plot using plot, and one in scatter plot and other one in normal plot. So now I am asking you need to create 2 plot as AX. You know how to create 1, 2, 1. This one should be AX1 should be in plot, and then the AX1. If you go with AX1, this one will be 1, 2, 2. This one should be AX1 dot scatter. So one plot should be in normal plot, the other one should be a scatter plot in the first example, and then the next one is look the weather data and hourly basis. You can compare these 2 variables on monthly basis. So now you need to, in our data we have hourly data. Now you need to convert that hourly data into monthly data. So how you can convert that hourly data into monthly data? You can use that group by command. When we are discussing pandas, I told you you have the option called group by. If you use that thing, you can group it according to the hours, and then you can get the monthly values. And then next one, diagonal pattern. So we will discuss. Try to find the solution for this one, and then we will discuss the solution on the next class.